Science Uncut, presented by the Volkswagen Foundation.
If you can't pronounce Knottnerus, you can say not near us or far away. Mr. Faraway is maybe the easiest, but it's not so cozy. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think it's great that we have this event here for this very important topic. I'm happy to tell you something about the approach of the Royal Netherlands Academy of Sciences on the topic of biosecurity, especially targeting on the advisory report we have prepared for our government. This work was chaired by Professor Loes van Vloten. She wasn't able to be here, so I represent not only the Academy but also our Commission chair. Coming from science, I'm a general practitioner myself. I'm not a biomedical specialist, but I'm from medicine. And coming from science, I think that all of us are not so familiar and do not always feel so much at home with, let's say, the world of security policy. However, life sciences and security policy are not two separate worlds anymore since 9/11, since the anthrax envelopes and many other things that have been discussed yesterday and today. But you could say it was a sort of merging, bringing a lot of awareness that this is really a big issue for biomedicine, public health, and also the academies of sciences. And in the Netherlands, this has given rise to the Code of Conduct for Biosecurity in 2007. It has already been mentioned by Professor Sieber. I want to say a few things about this code. Of course, it's not a panacea. And as the NSAPB has phrased, a code of conduct can make good people better, but probably has negligible impact on intentionally malicious behavior. But you can also say that a code of conduct, while it has limitations, can importantly, significantly contribute to awareness by reducing opportunities for misuse and also by improving opportunities for detection, especially early detection. And I underline all the issues that have been supportive for the Code of Conduct in the previous 2 or 3 presentations. And to tell something about the content of our Code of Conduct for Biosecurity, first and foremost, it was targeted on awareness raising even more than it had already been by all these events that came over us, and especially focusing on the importance of education and training, also on the risks of misuse, knowledge about the biological and toxin weapons convention, the importance of creating a culture of responsibility in institutions, also the importance of paying regular attention to the topic in institutions, also in professional publications. The importance of proactive research and publication policy. Think in an early phase about what the context, what the implications in terms of biosecurity of research and publication might be, so that the researchers are then at the lead of the process and not in retrospect the object of the process. Accountability and oversight, be as much as open as you can to whistleblowers and show that the whole thing is chefzag. its leadership. You have to be very, very near to your workers. And the importance of being very careful with internal and external communication as to what types of information in emails, even in your websites, could be risky as to information that is not meant for other people outside your laboratory. And also the accessibility of your institution and the people and the processes involved in shipment and transport of products and materials. All those aspects were in the code of conduct. And these elements do not seem so unexpected. But the assessment was that there was much room of improvement on the implementation, the development, and the further strengthening of these topics. And this code has received broad acceptance in the scientific community. But of course, we have also to make the point that while we have learned a lot of lessons from the H5N1 debate, and while one of the most important lessons was that the code of conduct really was a very helpful method and was integrated in the process much more than before in the work of the research institutions, awareness is not enough. And not only because of you cannot predict misuse and misusers as you might wish to do it, but also the debate between scientists and security people is still going on. And security people are not in the realm of the code of conduct so, as much as the scientists. And another consideration in this context is that involvement of policy and of the general public in this debate turns out to be increasingly important. Not only because of societal disruption, maybe as least as important as the technical issue itself. So you have to consider that, but also because the public and policymakers have opinions. They want to participate in the debate. They may have fears, and they also provide the money for research. So they are also a formal player in the democratic sense in this debate. So it's not just a matter of science itself, not just a matter of the code of conduct of the scientific community. And against this background, our Ministry of Science, on behalf of the government, has asked our academy for advice on the topic of biosecurity in 2012. The key questions were these two. How should dual-use research be assessed? The ministry found that it was quite difficult to make transparent and authoritative assessments of specific cases. And we heard examples of it these days, of dual use and of research proposals. And also who should assess dual use research, the governance part. Our academy has installed a committee to deal with this advisory request. 7 members from different disciplines were appointed: life sciences, medicine, law, security studies, and also a feedback group of more than 30 persons was consulted over the year that the committee worked, 4 or 5 times, people from science, policy, industry, and the government. And also there were a lot of national and international networking activities to consult and to be informed to improve the process. And the committee has focused on a strategic rather than on a technical advisory report and had intense discussions in order to try and formulate some basic assumptions. And here are some of them. One of the assumptions was, and it has been said these days quite often, there is no zero risk for misuse of life sciences. So don't try to deal with zero risk, try to deal with non-zero risk. Low and high risks have to be distinguished and handled differently. I think the 4-category scale of Paul Huntley was a very useful example to implement in this context. No singular discipline nor science in total, or department, nor governments in total can survey everything. So look for the most fruitful collaborative contribution rather than try to sit in all the laboratories to double the staff for control. The necessity of developing trust and bridging gaps between government, scientists and the public. Very important to, for example, to avoid fear of science in the public. And if you collaborate, you have a better perspective to bind rather than divide. And as has been said before, risks must be weighed versus potential benefits. There's no benefit without risk. It's the balance, it's the weighing that matters. And of course, and I agree with Professor Wolfram that this is a very political question, weighing the risk, making the balance. And it's also an international issue. No single country can weigh the benefits and risks for new medical products, for example. Very important also that a knowledge base of assessment of risk of intentional misuse is inherently problematic. So you should focus on awareness rather than on prediction, on awareness rather than control. And we thought that was also a very useful consideration. And in addition, we had some considerations that were further elaborations of these basic assumptions. Self-regulation, including the regular external review that we have in academia, is, in our belief, a very important basis to start from. If you don't have that, you cannot have responsible and creative research if you don't rely on the primary workers in research. The public, we would like the public have trust in researchers, but they should be able to do that. The research community has to make clear that they deserve this trust. People understand that there is not such a thing as a non-zero risk, but they should be confident that the scientific community has a responsible way of dealing with the potential risks of their work. That needs also an integrated approach for weighing and debating dual use in terms of risks and benefits, also from the societal perspective. And it's very important also to look then for a politically acceptable and scientifically feasible institutional and policy option to deal with dual use. It should be feasible, and it should not be a system that carries a lot of extra burdens to deal with. And I mentioned public confidence, and it's interesting to show this slide very briefly. It's not so bad with public confidence in science. We see such observations in many countries. There are British observations, US observations. This is a random sample of 800 people from the Dutch population, 2012. And they were asked to give their score on a 1 to 10 scale as to what confidence they had in various institutions. And it turns out that science is the best for all educational levels. People with a lower education generally have more problems with institutions, but they score here higher than, for example, so it's the same pattern for all the 3 categories of education. Then, for example, jurisdiction, the newspapers, the unions, television, the parliament, the big companies. The lowest score is the government. It's a bit painful if you are the chair of the Scientific Council for Government Policy, so there's some work to do. But it underlines that it's not only noblesse oblige, but there is big opportunity still for the scientific community to really grasp this position in terms of take some lead here. I think in the eyes of the public, it would not be self-evident that politicians should lead the scientists in this context, because the public confidence is in the reverse. We think that in assessing the dual-use character of a research project, attention should not only pay to the biological aspects, I in fact already implicated that, but also the societal and political context of specific projects. That's also important for your communication strategy, for example, and to anticipate on potential debates. Very important in our advisory report, and I agree what has been said by the previous speakers, that we should not need more bureaucracy, but we should try to integrate clear guidelines within or in addition to the existing regulatory framework. And this can also be reinforced by, again, putting a lot of emphasis on dealing with the code of conduct. And of course, more international cooperation and coordination is very important, because many of the topics related to biosecurity have an international dimension, and that's why this meeting is so important. And if you say, what would be the general approach of our academy? That's in fact this pyramid. The basis is self-regulation. If you don't have that, you don't have, as I said, responsible and creative research. But then you have guided self-regulation. And we think that there is a very important opportunity for increasing self-regulation by interaction and response. And that will be, in the next slide, our most important recommendation. And on top of that, only if needed, more regulation. But as few as possible, an intervention, especially penalty interventions, or interventions that are really influencing what happens in laboratories by politics, for example, should be the last resort. So our key recommendation was, after we also had made a review whether biosecurity was well covered in our national advisory structure, and after we had concluded that it was not the case, that we really needed a body to do this in a better way. And so we proposed to establish a Biosecurity Advisory Committee for Research in Life Sciences with basic principles. committee should be accessible for all stakeholders, also stakeholders outside the scientific community, to make clear that society has also some opportunity to participate in this issue. Independent and transparent weighing of all relevant interests is a very important topic for this committee. It should be a multidisciplinary committee with consultation of various stakeholders. Confidentiality, especially in the phase of investigating a case. Opportunity to reconsider advice based on the response of the requested party, which means that if you give an advice and it is an important advice, it is not followed up, it's not complied with, then the committee should revisit, for example, the institution. And the committee, and that's a very important recommendation, could be accommodated in the context of the Health Council of the Netherlands, which is a statutory body. So that gives backbone. That's a very important step in the governance context, because the Health Council of the Netherlands has the strong position that if it gives an advice to the government has to respond publicly to the parliament. So the government cannot escape from an advice. And if this committee, in the context of the Health Council, wants to signalize a very significant development, when all the basic steps like self-regulation have not worked sufficiently, then the government cannot bypass such a message. Accordingly, the task for the advisory committee should then be advising on specific research proposals or publication of results, reviewing reports by whistleblowers about projects or researchers, keeping track of scientific, technological and policy-related trends and developments, a very important role, maintaining contacts with research institutions to really have a sense of what's going on, maintaining a network for international contacts, and also very important, a general annual report to show to society what issues have been dealt with and what issues are at stake, and also mention the positive side, not just the negative side. Public information and communication is in our recommendation a task for this committee, and implied already, the committee can inform government if the committee thinks that this is necessary to do so, but it doesn't have to. Where are we today? It's my last slide, Mr. Chairman. We are not yet where we want to be. The advice was published in November 2013, a year ago. Until now, the government has not, although it was a requested advice, has not yet responded. But we have been informed that a lot of work is being done now. I think this is seen as a hot potato, because the politics only get the problem at the table when it is a problem. If everything goes fine, nobody hears about it. So there's no easy political score on this. And that may be a problem. I discussed this with the ministry and also with the Secretary of Education, and give a little warning, because if anything happens now in any lab, maybe it has something to do with biosecurity, it may not have something to do with biosecurity, but if there is a report 1 year ago and something happens, that may political biosecurity risk. So I expect that we will have a response not so long from now. And then we will organize a conference to discuss with the scientific community and stakeholders the government response. And the debate goes on. We are enthusiastically participating. We had a great debate in Amsterdam in June, for example, with an excellent discussion between Professor Wayne Hobson and Professor Palou. And we would look forward to be part of the ESAC initiative, the European Academies of Sciences Advisory Council, and of course the participation in initiatives of the VolkswagenStiftung and the National Academy of Sciences. Thank you so much.